I just got back from the King Giz show. That's short for King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. They're a popular band from the last 5 or 10 years out of Australia. And their thing is that they've got like a bajillion albums. It's pretty much hard rock, but the sound changes from album to album, and it's all kind of some level of good. That's my second time seeing them, both times at the same venue at the Forest Hills Tennis Center in Queens. And I'm just a big, big fan of going to live music in general. I'm a big believer that if you enjoy a band or some artist, you definitely want to check them out live. Most of my favorite things, I get into it via their albums, but nothing really compares to seeing it actually live and performed in front of you. Part of the reason is because they've got great speakers and it's super loud, and you can kind of feel the music in a way that's different from when you're listening at home. Different bands will play live differently. So some bands, it's like they'll play the song almost note for note with very few flourishes, like the way that they have it on the album. And other bands, it's like a completely different song, and there's everywhere in between. King Giz too, it being kind of hard rock, a little bit of punk and metal elements. There's a little bit of most things elements, but there's moshing there. And I always forget because I go to very few things where there's ever moshing, and they've got the moshing and the crowd surfing and the going around in a circle. And because it's so rare that anything that I go to has moshing, I never expect it coming in, and I'm surprised every time. Even though if I thought about it and the type of music it is, it's like, oh, of course it would be moshing. I was not in the moshing because we were at the very top of the bowl. So if you can imagine, this venue used to be a tennis court a long time ago, but they converted it into a music venue. So some people are on the floor, which is, you can imagine, the tennis court itself. And then the other people are in the stands in a bowl, and they have bleacher seat benches going all around. I've been to this venue before, and most of the time, if you're in the seats, it's numbered and assigned. But for whatever reason, they organized it this way so that just everything was a general admission free-for-all. And we showed up like 10 or 15 minutes after the show started, and there was nothing left. It was so completely full and packed. On the one hand, I'm a big believer in any seat inside of the stadium is better than not being there at all. But on the other hand, I also believe that no matter what you're at live, whether that's music or sports or whatever, the closer you can get to the action, the better. So it was kind of a bummer sitting all the way up there. But the funny thing was, since we were all the way at the top, we could look down and see all the moshing going on and the pits and circles that were forming and contracting. But being there felt a little bit like we were watching the show on TV, just because we were so high up. But that's just our fault for showing up as late as we did.
Hi. Someone has a very special hat.
And the best part of the show was, this is the debut of this IKEA bucket hat, and everybody loved it. My friends loved it. When I got to the show, the people scanning my ticket to get in commented on it. Somebody definitely commented while I was waiting for the bathroom. I'm not sure if anyone commented in the seats, I sort of forget. But the best part was when I went on the subway to ride home, there was a guy drinking, and we weren't even sitting close to each other. He noticed it and shouted across the train and was like, oh, oh. And I was like, what? And he's like, that hat is so dope. That's so dope. I'll pay you for that. And I said, I don't want you to pay me for this. I want to keep the hat, but you should know that I got this on their website and it's super cheap. So just go online and check out their website. You can get this hat. And he was like, oh, that's amazing. I definitely will do that. That hat is sick. Like, oh, yes. Definitely a lot of positive feedback on the hat today. So probably going to be using this more often. I'm not sure what the next show I'm going to is. I really want to go see Air in mid to late October in New York. Air is a French electronic duo from the 90s and 2000s. They've got a bunch of albums which are all pleasant enough, but their debut album from the, I think, late 90s is called Moon Safari, and it's amazing. I think the first side of Moon Safari is basically perfect. The second side is still very good for your average album. Not quite as exciting for me as the first half, but still, all things considered, just like very solid. And I think the show they're playing in New York that I want to go to, they're going to play Moon Safari through. So very exciting. Big fan of Moon Safari. Would want to see them anyway because they're kind of uncommon. They don't super tour that much. But if it's like $150 or $200 a ticket, I'm probably just going to back out. So we'll see.